$65 billion. Stolen. Not in a bank robbery. Not in a cyber attack. Not by some criminal no one had ever heard of. By a man who shook hands with the President of the United States. By a man who once chaired the Nasdaq stock exchange. By a man who was so trusted, so respected, so deeply admired, that people begged him to take their money. His name was Bernie Madoff, and for nearly 40 years, he ran the greatest financial lie in human history. This is how he did it, and this is the one red flag that every single victim ignored. 1060, Queens, New York. A 22-year-old kid starts a penny stock brokerage with $5,000. Money he earned as a lifeguard and a garden sprinkler installer. No Wall Street connections. No family in finance. No pedigree. His name was Bernard Lawrence Madoff, and within a decade, he had built one of the most respected investment firms on Wall Street. By the 1990s, his brokerage was processing 10 to 15% of all trading orders. On the New York Stock Exchange, he helped pioneer electronic trading. He sat on the board of the Nasdaq. He was eventually elected its chairman. Steven Spielberg trusted him. Elie Wiesel, the Nobel Peace Prize winner and Holocaust survivor, trusted him. Thousands of charities, hospitals, and universities trusted him. If Bernie Madoff called you and offered to manage your money, you said yes. You felt lucky. You felt chosen. That feeling of being chosen, that was the trap. Here is how a Ponzi scheme works. Investor A gives you $100,000. You promise them 10% returns every single year. You do not invest the money. You put it in a bank account. When investor A wants their returns, you pay them using investor B's money. When investor B wants returns, you pay them using investor C's money. As long as new money keeps coming in, the scheme keeps running. As long as nobody asks for everything back at once, nobody notices. It is not complicated. It is not sophisticated. What made Madoff different was not the scheme. What made Madoff different was the disguise. Bernie did not promise 50% returns. He did not promise to make you rich overnight. He promised 10%. Consistently. Every single year. In up markets and in down markets. That was his genius. Because 10% sounds believable. 10% sounds like a smart, careful, professional investor at work. 10% does not sound like a fraud. He also made it exclusive. You could not simply open an account with Madoff. You had to be referred by someone who was already inside. You had to be vetted, approved, accepted. Being a Madoff investor was a status symbol. It meant you had arrived. It meant you were trusted by one of the most powerful men in finance. And so nobody asked questions, because asking questions meant you did not trust him. And not trusting Bernie Madoff, that was embarrassing. For nearly 40 years, the money flowed in. Billions from wealthy individuals. Billions from hedge funds. Billions from charities and foundations. Elie Wiesel and his wife lost their entire life savings, $12 million. His humanitarian foundation lost another $15 million. Kevin Bacon and Kyra Sedgwick lost millions. Ziza Gabor, lost up to $10 million. Steven Spielberg's foundation took a massive hit. But the famous names were not the real victims. The real victims were the ones nobody talks about. The retirees who had saved their entire lives. The widows who had handed over everything their husbands had left them. The charities that had to shut their doors because every dollar was gone. Over 37,000 victims in over 130 countries, $65 billion. And not a single dollar was ever actually invested. There was one man who knew. His name was Harry Markopolos, a financial analyst, a numbers man. In 1999, a colleague asked him to reverse engineer Madoff's strategy, to figure out how he was generating such consistent returns. It took Harry Markopolos 4 hours. 4 hours to determine that what Madoff was doing was mathematically impossible. He went to the Securities and Exchange Commission. He laid out the evidence. They did nothing. He went back in 2001. He went back again in 2005. He submitted a 60-page report titled "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." The SEC investigated Madoff 8 times over 16 years. 8 times. And every single time, they walked away and found nothing. Madoff later said in an interview from prison, "The SEC never understood what I was doing. And I was right there, willing to explain it. And they just did not see it." December 2008. The financial crisis is at its peak. Markets are collapsing. Panic is spreading across the world. And suddenly, Madoff's investors want their money back. Not returns, not statements. Their actual money. $7 billion worth of withdrawal requests in a single month. Madoff had $300 million left in the account. The house of cards had stood for nearly 40 years, but it could not survive a single month of fear. On December 9th, 2008, Madoff called his sons, Mark and Andrew, into his apartment. He told them everything. The next morning, his sons called the FBI. On December 11th, 2008, federal agents knocked on Bernie Madoff's door. He answered. He did not run. He did not deny it. He simply said, "There is no innocent explanation." On March 12th, 2009, Bernie Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 federal felonies: securities fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, perjury. On June 29th, 2009, he was sentenced. 150 years in federal prison. He was 71 years old. His son Mark, who had turned him in, never recovered from the weight of what his father had done. On December 11th, 2010, exactly 2 years to the day after his father's arrest, Mark Madoff died by suicide. He was 46 years old. His other son, Andrew, died of cancer in 2014. Bernie Madoff died in prison on April 14th, 2021. He was 82 years old. He never fully explained why he did it. He had a legitimate business that was wildly successful. He had no financial reason to steal. He was already rich. He was already respected. He was already powerful. And he chose to destroy 40,000 lives anyway. Now, here is what I want you to take from this story, because there is a lesson here that goes far beyond Wall Street. Every single one of Madoff's victims was smart. Most of them were sophisticated. Many of them had spent their entire careers working in finance, and they all missed the same thing. Not a complex signal, not hidden data, not something only an expert could see. They missed something simple. Something that Harry Markopolos spotted in 4 hours. Consistent returns. 10% every year in every market condition. In the real world, that does not exist. Real investments go up and they go down. Anyone who promises you smooth, consistent, predictable returns in every market, in every condition, year after year, is lying to you. That is it. That is the red flag. Not complicated, not technical, just too good to be true. The most dangerous financial trap is not the one that looks suspicious. It is the one that looks perfect, because perfect does not exist in markets. Volatility is not a flaw. Volatility is proof that something is real. The day someone offers you returns that never fluctuate, that never have a bad quarter, that somehow beat every crash, every recession, every crisis, walk away. Bernie Madoff's victims did not walk away, because walking away felt rude, because asking questions felt embarrassing, because the man in front of them had built a reputation so perfect that doubting him felt impossible. Next time on this channel, a man worth $40 billion lost it all in under a year, not through fraud, not through theft, through one single catastrophic business decision. And the moment he realized it was over, he said nothing. He just walked back into his office, sat down at his desk, and stared at the wall for 4 hours. That story is next.